Publish Her Podcast, episode 98. Well, hey, writers, publishers, editors, book marketers, book formatters, all of our audience in this world of writing, publishing, and selling. I'm Alexa Bigwharf, and I welcome you back to another episode of the Publish Her Podcast. This one is a fun topic that I've never covered before, and I'm excited to bring you these two ladies to talk about travel writing and also traveling to get a sort of adventure to help you find your creativity. Have you ever thought about traveling to spark that adventurous spirit and inspire creativity? I wish those were my words, but those are not my words. Those are the words of Lisa and Cami, who run Wayfaring Writers. And I'm going to be talking with them about how they use travel to help inspire writers. They plan retreats and take writers to them, and they're going to talk all about their process. Now, if you're listening to this live or shortly after publication, their next event is coming up to a trip to Chile in December of 2023. So head on over to wayfaringwriters.com to check that out or look up other events that they may have in the future. And without further ado, I can't wait to introduce you to these two ladies who have been part of the Women in Publishing Summit community for a long time. And I'm just really excited to help share their latest and greatest adventure, which I hope to participate in one day as well, because what just an amazing thing to do, to go and travel, to get inspiration, to write. I know, and I discussed this in the podcast episode itself, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but when I was finishing my book, which is set in Paris, I spent 11 days in Paris, and it was a tremendous opportunity for me to get all the feels and see all the sights and do all the things. They use the travel to inspire in a little bit of a different way, as in you don't have to be using that destination in your writing, and you'll learn all about it in the episode. So if you are loving this podcast, I hope you'll share our episodes. I hope you'll subscribe to us, and I hope you will leave us a review. Reviews, just like book reviews, are so important in helping other people find the right places to get their information. And we're just happy to have you along for the ride and hope that you will rate us, review us, share us, and all of those fun things. All right, enjoy the show. Welcome to the Publish Her Podcast, a place where you can come to get inspiration, motivation, help, encouragement, and support in your journey to write, publish, and sell your book. Hosted by Alexa Bigwharf.
'Cause I've been where you've been, and I felt what you're feeling, and I don't want to get in your way.
Okay, welcome to the Publish Her Podcast, everyone. I'm Alexa Bigwharf, your host, and today I am really pleased to bring you two very lovely ladies who I've had the pleasure to work with over the past couple years. They've been guests on the Women in Publishing Summit, and they're doing really fun and exciting things together, like teaching people how to adventure write while you're traveling, which to me sounds really exciting and a really fun thing to do. And I love to travel and I love to write. So what a great combination of things. So let me tell you about them quickly, and then we are going to get into the meat of this topic. So we have Lisa Daly, who is an avid traveler and writer. In 2015, she traveled around the world with her husband and two teenage sons, visiting 14 countries and nearly 100 locations. In her time abroad, she unearthed new ways of looking at her life through her discoveries in remote corners of the world, and she continues to enrich her life through travel. Lisa is a voracious reader and writer and has published more than 20 titles and 200 authors at her company Sidekick Press, including her own travel memoir, Square Up. A native Montanan, Lisa now makes her home by the ocean in Bellingham, Washington, but returns to her roots every summer for a healthy dose of mountains and big sky. And we also have Cami Ostman, who has traveled to all 7 continents and to 24 countries. She's run 25 marathons and zillions of other races of other distances, always at the back of the pack. That would be me too in my one marathon, which they had the police like trailing behind me as we're finishing up the marathon, but I finished it. So she is the author of Second Wind, One Woman's Midlife Quest to Run 7 Marathons on 7 Continents, and co-editor of Beyond Belief, The Secret Lives of Women in Extreme Religion, Seal Press. Cami holds a Bachelor's of Education in English and a theater from Western Washington University and a Master's of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy from Seattle Pacific University. Which I wonder, do you also do counseling while you're on your writing retreats?
Sometimes.
Sometimes we have Cami, the instructor and the counselor. She has a special interest in helping women live more authentically and freely. She's also a dog lover, a wine connoisseur, a runner, and a blogger. She runs a program for writers called The Narrative Project and has a passion for changing unhelpful narratives so people can be in charge of her own stories. She coaches people into their truest expression of themselves and lives in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Ooh. I mean, really, adventure writing, why travel is the way to hone your craft. Okay. Amazing. Let's just dig into this because I think you both know that I recently published a book set in Paris, and one of my most favorite pieces of this entire thing was going back to France and actually being in Paris. I finished my book in Paris, and it was just such a fundamentally, I don't know, fundamentally wonderful is even an expression, but I'm going to say it. So let's talk about, first of all, before we get into all of that, you're both running publishing businesses and helping authors write their books. So what made you decide, hey, let's start another business doing something else? I mean, not entirely different, but how did this come about?
Yeah. Well, we're a little crazy.
Join the club. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, our typical conversation between Lisa and me goes something like, hey, Lisa, I have a new idea. And she's like,
no.
No new ideas. It sounds like my team when I'm like, let's create a new, no. But you gave in, Lisa, obviously. So
yeah. Well, travel, I think, is both near and dear to both of us. And so we were looking for a way. And I think that we both know how much that travel really impacted our own writing.
Right.
And so wanted to share that with our clients as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we had, I think if you look at the services that Lisa and I offer in between our two businesses, everything from like taking a writer from the inception of an idea through to a published book and launching it and building their platform and all of those things. The one thing that was really missing was taking a break and really, and really honing your observational skills as a writer through travel. So we really just have this passion for the way that travel changes a person and changes a writer. So, we decided we'd just start taking people with us.
I love it. So that's kind of your philosophy, is including that break time, I would guess, in the wayfaring writers, but also using, just what is the philosophy? I'll just ask you to tell me instead of me trying to assume what it is.
You want to start with it, Lisa?
Sure. I mean, I think part of it, Alexa, is when you sit in the same place and do the same thing every day, you're only going to have that one experience. But when you take yourself out of your comfort zone and you step outside into the uncomfortable and the unknown and the different sights and smells and tastes and sounds and views, that you start to incorporate all that into your writing as well. And it just helps you be a better observationist and get all that into your writing.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the big question is then, how is it different to travel versus vacation when it comes to the writing piece?
Well, Lisa and I feel really, really strongly about this. I don't have anything against vacationing. I think vacationing is, it's a fine thing to do. And we all need to vacation sometimes and just go sit on a beach and stare at the clouds passing by. But for both Lisa and I, and we discovered that we shared this in common, travel it's challenging your assumptions. Yeah. You really don't challenge your assumptions if you go to an all-inclusive 5-star hotel and sit on the beach and sip Mai Tais, lovely as that is. When you challenge your assumptions, I think it was Albert Einstein that said, something like, I'll slaughter this, but something like travel is poisonous to prejudice or something like that, that when you go somewhere and you have an experience and you have it with other people and in a culture that you don't understand, off the beaten track, then you change who you are. You change how you believe, what you think. All of the ways that you might, assumptions that you might make and bring to the page, those are upended,
So what are some of your favorite trips that you've taken, and how it affected writers that came along with you?
I think one of my favorite stories happened last year. We took a group of writers down to Oaxaca, and there was one gal with us who was not a writer by trade. She's a doctor, but she had a mission to save the world from cervical cancer because it's curable and not enough people know that. And she really discovered that writing a book was a lot harder than she thought it was going to be. And she was really stuck in that place of, do I even continue? And she came along on the trip and it opened her eyes. And we have different breakout groups where we talk to people about the different parts of publishing and writing and craft. And she talked to me about publishing, and I suggested that that I was probably not the right publisher for her. And I suggested she look at university presses. And lo and behold, she finished that book and got a contract this year with Cambridge University Press.
Yes, Cambridge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now her book's going to be published this year, and she is over the moon. And I don't think that she maybe would have had that experience or gone down that road had she not been with us and gotten that break, kind of regrouped and opened her eyes to new possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before Cami shares her favorite story, then I guess it's safe to assume then that these trips, they're not necessarily location trips. It's not necessarily like what I did where I went to Paris to be in the setting. They're just, am I getting the right gist here that you're taking them away on an adventure, which then opens up the creativity, challenges the assumptions, as you said, and just gives that open door to thinking about the world differently, which then helps you write and get into your creativity or into ideas that you might have for how you're moving forward with your project.
Yeah. So that's yes. And we also, so what we do is that we take a group to a particular location and then we go out from there on adventures. Okay. And while we're there, we mastermind everybody's book. So most of the people who come with us are working on a book or considering, a book that they might want to write. We have brought with us an agent who consults with everybody throughout the course of the time that we're together. Last December, this most recent trip that we took, Grant Faulkner who's the executive director of NaNoWriMo came with us.
Wow.
And did some craft talks. And so, Lisa will sit down so we each, the agent that we brought, Laura Mazer, Grant, Lisa, and we each had a meeting with, at some point with every single person who came and offered them something in our expertise. So I mastermind books, Lisa masterminds the platform building process, the agent masterminds selling, a book. And then Grant gave us craft talks and met with writers to noodle around their ideas. So, we are also offering specific coaching while we're on our trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We have lessons too that we kind of give out to the writers as we go on these adventures, so one might be, give them particular things to look for in these adventures so that it helps really build those skills of looking and seeing and smelling and noticing the differences.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, Cami, so back to that. Did you have a favorite trip and how it affected the writers that came along?
Well, I have a lot of favorite moments. There were two on our most recent trip to Oaxaca that were really fun. One was we all went to Monte Alban to see the ruins, and the guide that was hired for us was just such a quirky, odd person. She was very militant, like we were her little soldiers instead of her, showing us the location. And so there were a couple of people in the group who were just like, I can't even take it. I can't even. And our philosophy is, what doesn't kill you makes for a good story. So like, I just went over and whispered in their ear, like, you're going to turn her into a character. So watch everything carefully. Right. So I loved that moment of, a mishap that happens. And Lisa and I are, it's not a problem if we have a mishap. It's like, okay, well, then what's going to happen? Let's find out. It's part of the adventure. So that was really a wonderful moment. And then another of my favorite moments, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with this, Lisa, was when we were all in the van, and we had a range of ages from in the 20s and to, I think, in the 70s, and of people in there. And all of a sudden, our guide was driving, and the Queen song, Bohemian Rhapsody, came on. And like, I said, hey, will you turn that up? And then the whole van just sort of sang together, and those kind of like moments of connection with people who wouldn't normally get to know each other are just super sweet.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've kind of talked a little bit throughout here why travel is important for writers, but I'd say, one, do you have anything else to add on that? Or maybe you can answer it into why do you think travel is so important and relevant right now for writers?
Yeah. Well, I know Lisa, I'm actually going to ask Lisa to tell something that happened when on her trip with her family. But as I said, I really believe that travel opens us up to new perspective. But we have like this off the beaten track sort of philosophy. And Lisa is really good at this. Lisa, tell the story about taking your family to eat tarantulas.
Oh my goodness. All the things I thought you were going to say, that was not it. Yes,
no, we do like tend toward that very much offbeaten. And so we arrived, my husband and I and my teenage sons arrived in Cambodia, and we were looking for things to do. And I found we typically would sit in the hotel and kind of Google things and look around, try and see what we could see in our area. And there was a restaurant that was specialized in Cambodian cuisine. And part of that was tarantulas. And it was actually a place that helped kids from the street find a career and build a career and then move out into that industry. And so it was both kind of a nonprofit and a way to go and experience something different. So we took them, and I was a little bit surprised, but my kids jumped right in. The waitress asked if we wanted to see the tarantulas before we ate them, and we said, okay. And we weren't sure what to expect, but they brought 2 live tarantulas out, and then my husband held them. I won't say we. My husband held them, and that they crawled up his arms, and then they brought them to us deep fried.
Oh my goodness.
And my son even jumped right in and then ordered the red tree ant soup. And so it was, we were building adventurous children.
Yeah. We don't make our writers eat tarantulas. Okay. So,
Thank goodness.
Although we do take them to eat crickets in Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I think that I personally believe that writers have a special job on the planet. I believe that we are the ones through whom stories are codified, and we lend our gifts to contribute to the collective consciousness, right? So I believe that we have a very important job and calling. And so when we take writers somewhere and they expand their sense of who they are and what's possible in the world, it's like we get better. We're better contributors.
Yeah.
So I just think that's like we all eat crickets when we go to Mexico. I mean, wherever we go, we're going to try a thing. Right. People don't have to do it, but by the end of the last trip, I mean, many people ordered the cricket tacos at the restaurant,
Wow. That's so interesting. I think you're right, though, Cami, because even if the places you're going don't necessarily, your adventures don't necessarily show up in your book, I think every time that you do anything that expands your experiences, that expands the kind of people that you engage with, that expands the food you've eaten, the sights you've seen, and smells you've had, like, I think it helps you and this doesn't just have to be for fiction, but for creative nonfiction, for memoirs, for even really developing good story in nonfiction. I think I really agree that traveling opens you up to newer possibilities, newer things, newer creativity, newer
Yep.
ways to think about things that you may have never thought about before. I know
Yeah.
that's been my case, and in just having lived overseas a couple of times, having traveled a lot when I was in the military, like it just changes your entire perspective.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. And we're publishing an anthology, so people do come out of the trip with a publishing credit. So
Nice.
yeah.
So on that note, are these, when writers come with you on these, are they writers that you're already working with, or are they writers that, do you open it up to anyone to participate?
Yeah. It's open to anybody. We always do a bunch of info sessions, and I would say, wouldn't you say, Lisa, it's probably about 50-50?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, a lot of them we do draw from our crowd of people who want to come with us, but there's always people who are not in our programs that have been along on each journey. So,
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So how many times a year do you do this?
Right now we're doing it once a year.
Okay.
We plan to expand. But like yourself, Alexa, we're juggling a lot of balls and things like that. So our next trip, we're debating between Portugal and Chile.
Oh,
So, but we do have a little, is that little survey still up on the website, Lisa?
yeah, there's a little quiz up on the website for wayfaringwriters.com that is asking where people want to go. Where do you want to go? So anyone who visits can go and fill that out. And, we do draw a little bit from that. We've gone to Oaxaca twice now and we love it there. And I think that we'll probably make that at least maybe an every third year adventure.
that's very cool. So I was going to ask how people can find out more about this, but wayfaringwriters.com is where you want them to go?
Yep.
And do you have social media presence or anything like that you want people to follow you at?
There is a Facebook page for Wayfaring Writers as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And if anyone is, I don't know when this is going to air, Alexa, but if anyone's at AWP this year in Seattle, Cami and I will have a booth there as well.
Okay, cool. When is that?
It is March 9, 10, 11 in Seattle.
Okay. I'm not sure if this will air before that or not, but if it does and you're in AWP at Seattle, make sure you go find them. Okay. So we usually ask, I don't know if this is the right type of interview to ask this or not, but we usually ask for some tips. Do you have any tips that go around this topic as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
we do. Go buy an airplane ticket somewhere.
That's the best tip. I love that tip.
That was mine.
Oh, was that yours?
Yeah.
Go do something, go travel, go have adventure, let it open you up, huh?
Yeah. I would also add to that when you go to a place, to look for, if you want an adventure, to stay away from like the big options, like the big hotels, the big all-inclusive. Look for the smaller places that are locally owned. Yeah. Where you have to struggle a little bit with the language, where you're not going to stay in a 5-star hotel. I'm actually in Mexico right now in this cute little studio right in the heart that I just found by searching around the internet. But if you're going to go on tours, look for those that are led by locals, not ones that have 60 people that are just a booze cruise. And go on the little adventures. Go to out of the way places where you're going to meet people and see new things and really engage with the place that you're visiting.
Yeah. And I would say Lisa and I also both share a philosophy, travel light. So both of us, I don't think that it matters whether or not it's a 2-month long trip or it's a weekend trip. It's never more than what we can keep in our backpack. And so travel light, because that way you can move around more easily and you can have lots of different experiences. You don't need that much. Yeah, you're going to be in the same outfit in all your pictures, but whatever,
Yeah, bring a dry line and find out the closest laundromat. And a lot of times your hotel will send out laundry too.
Yeah. Good advice. Yeah, that would be quite challenging for me. Although I did go on a trip overseas recently and I only took a small carry-on bag. So that was an improvement over the large suitcase and a carry-on. But a backpack would be, I could do it. I did it in college. I could figure out how to do it.
My entire family, when we traveled for 7 months around the world and each of us only had a backpack.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could also offer a whole nother consulting service in traveling lightly.
Totally. Actually, I've done that with lots of friends. You know, I have friends who will call me after their trip. You're going to be so proud of me. I just took one bag.
That
So
is great. All right. So we're going to have everybody go over to wayfaringwriters.com. That's WAYFARING writers.com. And is there anything else you'd like to know before we end this? We do not. You'd like to know that you'd like to share. There's probably lots of things we'd all like to know. You both y'all. I know you can't see this as listeners, but both of their expressions were just like, "What? Huh?"
I'm thinking like
audience.
Why, yes, Alexa. Now we get to ask you questions.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's fantastic. Let me think. I think the one thing that I really want to say to people is to face down their fears if they're afraid to travel. You know, as writers, a lot of our life happens in our heads, sitting at the desk. Mm-hmm. You will have more to write about, and you'll have better observational skills if you take yourself on adventures, and that can be scary.
Yeah.
But you know, the number one way that people die when they travel, I had a doctor tell me this when he was giving me my typhoid shot. He said, from not wearing their seatbelts.
Wow.
Right. Okay. So it's like people aren't being I mean, I'm not saying it never happens to people, but you know, largely when we travel, we use our normal common sense that and as women, Lisa and I both travel alone plenty. So use your normal common sense. You know, don't be too afraid. Get out there, have adventures. That's our big thing.
Yeah. And if you are scared of it, then join a group like this, because now you're going with a guide, with tours, with people who are going to get you to the right places and do all the hard work for you. That's very appealing to me, I have to say. Yeah. That's very, very appealing to me.
Well, you'll have to come with us.
I want to. I need to know the dates so that I can start planning, because as we already discussed, like, you know, schedule is full. But this is my jam. And it's funny. I know I just said I was going to wrap this up, and now I'm just going to keep talking here, but because I set an intention for myself that traveling and writing about traveling was going to be, and I don't know how that's going to be yet, whether it's just going to be books that are set in overseas locations, whether it's going to be travel blogging or whatever. But I went ahead and I set up my own little like page on Google where I'm posting and reviewing sites and posting pictures and doing things like that. Like I'm setting up the kind of the travel mindset for myself. Because the travel is important to me for all the reasons we've already discussed, but it also, after 3 years of lockdown or 2 years of lockdown, like I don't want to sit still anymore. And I'm so afraid that we'll lose the opportunity to see these places again at some point in time. And I want to get out there and live.
Absolutely.
So, well, this has been awesome. I appreciate the two of you so much. I am going to go on a trip with you. If not this year, then the next year. It's happening. Hold me to it.
Okay. We'll let you know as soon as we have dates.
Awesome. All right. And I'd be fine with Portugal or Chile. I've never been to either of those locations. So.
Okay, good.
All right. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Alexa.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Publisher Podcast. We hope to see you back for the next episode. Great, huge thanks goes to Jasmine Commerce for the use of her song. You can find Jasmine on SoundCloud. Go check out all of her music. We'll see you next time.